Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. I'm Casey Bryant, and this is the Hat City Hockey Show. And before we get going today, I just wanted to take a quick moment and be real with all of you and say thank you. I know a lot of you out there probably look at the time codes on these things and go, 49 minutes? What is this guy doing? But trust me, there's a reason for it. You don't need me to tell you that there is a lot going on right now. So to be able to take an hour out of a day and talk about hockey and share the passion for the game and stories and jokes and good times, it's really a relief more than anything else. Players go out there and take the ice for the fans, and when they can't play in front of the fans, well, they come on this channel and they try to entertain all of you. And you've all been so incredibly supportive, and we see that, and we thank you so much. We almost had ourselves a normal start to the Federal Prospects Hockey League season. Last Wednesday, the Elmira Enforcers and Watertown Wolves were set to start what would have been a 16-game summit series between the two of them, but that all came to a screeching halt 20 minutes before puck drop as, allegedly, two Watertown Wolves players jumped player head coach Ahmed Mahfouz and, according to Enforcers owner Robbie Nichols, sucker punched him. This all apparently went down in the hallway leading to the locker room as players were filing into the building before the game. And while I understand that Ahmed Mahfouz is not necessarily the most popular guy in the league, though he is the all-time leading scorer, I certainly can't condone a move like that. But if you really wanted to beat up Ahmed Mahfouz, why don't you just wait 30 minutes and do it on the ice? You play hockey for a living. This sort of thing wouldn't just be socially acceptable, it would be encouraged. So that series is off the table now. We're just going to move past it and chalk that incident up to a funny little misunderstanding between friends. There is some news about the FPHL season coming out soon that you're going to want to keep a lookout for. But in the meantime, we have ourselves a great show here with an all-time great guest. Cue the music! My next guest on the Hat City Hockey Show is a legend. He's a former goalie for the Islanders, Devils, Flyers, even the Colorado Rockies, and you can hear him on the radio as color commentator for the New Jersey Devils. Please welcome Glenn Chico Resch. Chico.
Oh yeah, you guys are kind of the cherry of that league, right? I mean, you guys are the strongest franchise probably.
Historically, yeah, we're a very strong team. Going back to when we were in the United Hockey League, we had the Danbury Trashers, which are
That's right.
Infamous. You know, everyone seems to have a horror story about playing the Danbury Trashers.
Hey, how far is Danbury from, say, New Haven, East Haven?
So that's about 40 minutes to an hour, I think, depending on I-84's traffic. But a lot of our core fans are from New Haven. Section 14 in the New Haven Coliseum has migrated and become Section 102. In Danbury.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's good. So the Coliseum's torn down now.
It is. Yeah.
Oh, but you remember, you don't remember ever being there.
Not really, no. I was born in 95, so I really don't have any recollection of...
Okay. Yeah, I thought, because it seemed like it was quite a while ago that it was torn down, but, we opened it, of course, with the New Haven Nighthawks. We opened it, and then it closed later. But, yeah, it was a great time on the East Coast there. I loved New Haven. But anyway, Casey, whatever you want to do, I'm ready if you are.
The first thing I always like to ask people when they're not at the rink and when they're not watching hockey, what have they been doing to keep sane through this whole process? So what have you been reading, watching, listening to that has kept you going through quarantine when there's not Devils hockey going on?
Well, I think we're all in the same boat. You got to look for something. I'm not a big TV watcher. I'll watch a little bit, but that's not where I'm going to land in terms of spending my time. I still work out a lot, do weights and run, and that takes up 2-3 hours. And I have a lot of hobbies, a lot of thought, a lot of thinking, which is good. You're gonna either try to keep busy, which is hard, or you're gonna just sit and think and read. And I read the Bible a lot. I read other books, some sports books. I got a wide range of things that I like to read. So it's hard to believe that it was last March 13th was going to be the Devils game and they canceled it. And we're already in February. So it's going to be coming up on a year or so.
Well, it's funny that you say that you spend a lot of your time sort of thinking with self-meditation, because we were talking to Steve Valiquette a couple of weeks ago, and he's a very cerebral guy, gave a lot of insight as to mental preparation for things, which I think comes with the territory of being a goaltender. You know, you once said that goaltenders are the smartest athletes in the world, and in a lot of cases, they're also the strangest, you know, from the quirky like Gilles Gratton to the ferocious like Billy Smith and the goofy like Elvis Merzlikins. So what is it about goalies that makes them so fascinating? Does being a goalie make you crazy, or do crazies become goalies?
I think more of the latter. You think of great artists. Just think of them, all the great artists, how they were all talked about, right from the ones from the past history, Starry Night. Who am I thinking of?
Van Gogh.
I'm sorry, yeah, Vincent Van Gogh. I haven't thought about him. But I mean, Vincent Van Gogh, all the great artists, there's similarities between that kind of focus and expression, the time it takes to really think about everything that you're doing. Like, you know, for forwards or defense, they skate and they can visualize stopping a player or doing something offensively. But for a goalie, he's got to break down every play. When I was playing, I'm watching what's happening in the far corner in the other end, because however my defensive players are lining up, I can see, boy, if that guy beats my two teammates with a pass, I'm going to be in trouble. So it's just a constant analyzing. And I think the other thing is, Casey, when you're a goalie, how many goaltenders can play at one time? Just one. And if you don't play well, how long do you think you're going to get the net and you're going to be out of there? You know, goal scorers, they go 7, 8, 9 games and and without a goal. And then the coaches, we just got to let them work through it. It's not happening with goalies. So there's a whole different kind of pressure and really micro analyzing. And I think when you do that, you're in your head a lot more. And you don't have teammates to go to the bench and chit chat with. So you're always out there talking to yourself or, you know, analyzing. So, yeah, I think there is something about goalies that is definitely unique. I don't know if they're the smartest, but put it this way. I've never met a dumb goalie. I've met some dumb forwards, some dumb defense, never met a dumb goalie. That's all I'm going to say.
I like that. And when it comes to the goalie cult of personality, you're a fan favorite. You know, I'll pull a quote here from the Hockey Illustrated in 1983 for you here. It called you the most garrulous athlete in New York, which I think is high praise. You know, it means you're a charismatic guy. I see people posting all the time online. I met Chico and he chatted me up at the Rock, and I was hanging with Chico before the game and we were there for half an hour. In a world of like closed off athletes, you've never fit that mold. I find that fascinating.
Well, thank you for all those nice things. Well, here's what happened. When I was growing up in Canada, again, more of an introverted kid, not very confident. I had 5 sisters, so that was a bizarre upbringing. They're all great, you know, we're good friends, but I mean that caused me to not have like a brother I could really communicate with. So I was quiet and shy. And then when I first came to the East Coast, to New Haven, and we were a brand new team, the Nighthawks, a lot of writers and reporters would come in and ask people questions. And then I got into New York, you know, finally. And Casey, I realized that a couple things. One, the writer or the reporter, like you've done interviews, they don't want just cliches. It just hit me. They don't want cliches because every other guy sitting around this room could throw cliches. But if you could think like goalies do, a little deeper, right, and come up with an anecdote or something that tells a little bit more of the story, they like that. And then they gravitate to you. And I wasn't doing it just, you know, for me, although after a while I thought, you know, they're always coming to me, and I know some players were kind of jealous. So I started to figure out human nature. One is give the other people around you what they're looking for, and then they will reciprocate, right? I mean, the writers protected me in some ways. When I was playing bad, they didn't rip me. And then the other thing was I was in the old Meadowlands, the Brendan Byrne Arena, skating around with the New Jersey Devils. And it was in warm-up. There weren't a ton of fans. And way up on the top one night, I'm skating around, and I hear these kids screaming, "Hey, Chico! Chico!" And they're going, like this, and hey. And, I'm skating around, and I'm thinking, well, I could just pretend I don't hear them. But that's not the right thing to do. So I looked up there, my blocker, I waved, give them, and then they were punching each other, pointing like, look at, he noticed us. And he noticed us, and I thought, does it take that little to make people feel good about themselves? If it does, I can certainly do that. So when you're talking about fans saying, yeah, I met Chico and he talked to me, when a fan meets me, I know what they want. They want me to acknowledge, I see you, you're not just some, fan of a million, you're somebody individual. And so I've tried to do that. Boy, it's amazing the connection you get with people. Just saying good morning to someone in the coffee shop. You just try it sometime. Somebody's got his head down and stuff. Hey, good morning. How you doing? Well, they'll look at you like, what? You notice me? You talk to me? So that was my whole theory, going from shy and introverted into outgoing. Fans are what make the sport, right? That's what's weird now, Casey. We're doing the games, the Devils games, and there's no fans. And they pipe in the fake music, the music and noise. And it kind of does supply a little something that makes it a little more normal. But without the fans, sports isn't really much of an event.
You would think that it would be a self-explanatory concept and a low bar to clear, but a lot of people just don't seem to grasp it. So it's always admirable when someone gets it. As someone who both works in the industry and is a hockey fan, that's admirable to me. And one of the ways that you showed your individuality was in the mask department, and because you were among the first to get a customized mask. But I've heard that there's a story surrounding one of your first, which was told to me by Guy Guglielmi, and he told me to ask you about it. What's the story there about Guy and your goalie mask?
Oh, this is a sad story, actually, because what happened was my first year of marriage was in New Haven. I knew how they made masks then, so I asked my wife if she'd help me make a mask. And it's really simple. You just get plaster a pair of strips, and you put them in water. You put Vaseline on your face, and then you lay them over, right? You just lay them over like thick, about that thick, and you got the Vaseline doesn't allow it to stick to your face. And my wife was doing all that, and you have a straw sticking out that you're breathing through. So you're basically like covered. Then you pull it off, and because the Vaseline doesn't make it stick, then you let it harden, and then you put more Vaseline in so it doesn't stick again, and then you pour in plaster of Paris liquid, right? As you can imagine now. So then you're getting the formation of your face inside, and then you pull off the outside, and then you've got the mold. But then the next step, and I did all this myself, because I told you I liked hobbies, then I went and found out you get the strips of fiberglass, with the liquid, and you do the same thing, and you put it over that mold. Anyway, to make a long story short, I made my own mask.
Wow.
And it was really cool. And I painted it red. And it was really, back in the day, right? It was really unique. So I wore it that year. And then I was with the New York Islanders, and they said, we're going to get you a new mask. You're going to get one of those Ernest Higgins masks. So then I didn't need my homemade mask. And Guy Guglielmi, I lived with him and his dad, Guy, and his mom. And so we lived in East Haven in an apartment. And he was just only 5 or 6, nice little kid. So I said, here, you can have the mask. So I was talking to him the other day after you had talked to him. And he says, Chico, what do you think that mask would be worth? I said, Guy, anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000. Those old masks that were worn, yeah. And he doesn't know what happened. Norma, his mom, must have moved. They must have moved and threw it out. But I wished I did have that mask because it was cool. Well, that's what happened. If anybody found it in the garbage, contact one of us, and there'll be a reward if you found it. I promise you. I'll give you $1,000 if you found it.
There you go. To eBay, friends. Power the listings.
I had my mask that I with the NHL my first year in the island, and an art student, just a high school student, said, "Hey, let me paint your mask." And back in the day, then, I mean, nothing was. There weren't $1 million contracts. We were all just the same, high school kids coming in and whatever. And I said, "Sure, take it home. We're not playing over the weekend." She painted it, and it was that real colorful with a Long Island on there. Anyway, make a long story short, I used that all year. Then they took it in the Hockey Hall of Fame, which you can view it now. But then there was a second mask that I had made exactly the same. Then I wore that for a year or two maybe. And then for some reason, I traded it for a Terry Sawchuk jersey. And that was a pretty good deal because that was a wool Terry Sawchuk. He's a Hall of Famer. But then about 8-10 years ago, somebody said, "Hey, that mask that you traded to that guy is on not on eBay. It's in an auction out of Montreal." I started to bid. And finally, I said to the guy who was running it, I said, "Listen, I don't know who's bidding against me, but I'm going to tell you, I will pay $11,000 for that mask and no more." So guess what? I got it. So I don't know who was pushing it up, but finally I just said, "That's it." And I bought it back for $11,000 and gave it to my daughter. And that's pretty much my mask story. Well, there is one more. Last thing. So my last time I'm wearing the fiberglass. Okay. So Roy Neiman, he's a very famous sports artist, and he was big. He's not big now, but done a lot of famous stuff. He said to me, "Chico, I'll paint your mask, your fiberglass mask." That would be not Michelangelo, but that would be like somebody famous wanting to paint your mask. And I said, "Well, let me think about that, Leroy." But what was happening, the European goalies were coming over, and we had one, Jörn Augusta, who was from Sweden, and he was trying out for the Islanders. The players were saying, "Let's shoot the high ones at him, right? We'll keep it low on Smitty and Chico." But they're hitting him in the head, Casey, and he's just going like this. He's not even really flinching off the cage because it's not form-fitting to his face. And I thought, geez, that sounds good. I might want to change to that. I had to tell Leroy I was changing to the more of the fiberglass with the cutout, and I always kind of regret it. I should have just wore it for half a season or something. I would have had quite a piece. But anyway, that's sort of the evolution of the goalie mask.
I love that. One of my favorite shows on MSG Networks when it was on was with Henrik Lundqvist doing the different designs of his mask. He would get like different celebrities to come in and help him design. He had like John McEnroe and Michael J. Fox. So I always love how people design their masks. That's always fascinating to me. Now, speaking of Guy, because he's from the New Haven area with the Nighthawks, which are a familiar name to all of our fans. Every year that there's a Danbury team here, we have a New Haven Nighthawk throwback night. We put on the Nighthawk jerseys and we skate, and it almost always ends in a brawl, which is great. So a lot of our fans are holdovers from Section 14. They're now Section 102. What do you remember from the Coliseum and those days in your year in New Haven?
Oh, a lot of great memories. Like I said, I got married that fall, so my first year of marriage. But, I'd never been to the East Coast. I'm from Saskatchewan originally, where I grew up. If you go to Montana, take a right. Just take a right and go up into Canada. You'll find where I lived. So, the East Coast was sort of like a fantasy. What is it like? I'd seen pictures and stuff. But so when I came out there and we settled in East Haven, I mean, it was a magical time. And the New Haven Coliseum was brand new. And we were a New York Islanders expansion team. So we were brand new. We weren't very good, but we didn't know it until about 10 or 15 games in. But what I do remember, and it'd be interesting, if any of the people listening to this remember him, you come up and tell Casey, okay, the Sports Illustrated, it rated the 5 toughest players in hockey. And 4 of them were in the NHL. But the 5th one was Kevin Morrison, who had played for New Haven and East Coast League and now was on my team. Wonderful individual. But I've always said since, he was really the 6th toughest. The 5th toughest was his wife, Stacy, who was an East Haven girl, and we love Stacy. But Stacy was like, what you see is what you got. Big heart. I know some of her children are still alive. Stacy has passed, but she lived in the same apartment my wife and I love Stacy. And when we were bad, those first, that first year, and fans were starting to boo us, Stacy, who sat right next to my wife, would get up and say, "Shut up there." And she'd give him the double bird, or she'd be yelling at him. Like, it was like, Diane would sit there and say, my wife, Diane, would say, "Well, what do I do?" I say, "You just do what you're doing and just let Stacy go." And the other thing that year in New Haven, we played the Russian team that had played in Team Canada in 72. We knew we weren't going to win. Heck, we're in the bottom of the league in the American League. We got one of the greatest teams in the world coming in to play us. I think they beat us 7-2 or something, 7-3. But like on that team was not only myself, but Gary Howitt and Bobby Nystrom, two guys who won cups with the Islanders and very tough. And the Russian had this defenseman, Vasiliev was his name, and they had a reputation that they wouldn't fight. And, the East Coast American League, even the NHL, was a physical game. And so they're beating us bad. And it's the same thing. I don't know if it's still that way in Danbury, but if you were losing bad, you said, okay, we got to get something out of this game. Let's have a brawl. Let's have a fight. Somebody beat up somebody in the other team just to say we're leaving with something. We didn't get beat in every area. My friend Gary Howard, one of my best friends, like I say, played on the Islanders and played that whole year in New Haven. He grabs Vasiliev and he starts kind of punching him with his hand, on his sweater. Boom, 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 And the Russian, and they were all really in shape, he goes, boom, knocked Gary right in the teeth, knocked out some of his teeth. Oh. And Gary was so disappointed because then he tried to scrap with him. He said, "Everybody tells me these guys don't fight. They won't punch you." Well, what do you think happened here? So that's another memory. Valeri Kharlamov was our greatest Russian, and I can still see him behind the net. Well, I thought I saw him behind the net in New Haven, and he's going back this way, and that way, and that way, and that way. Boom! I'm looking here. All of a sudden, he's over there in front of the net. Had the whole net to shoot at. Oh, he made me look stupid. So that whole year, the restaurants we would go to, we could go to the beach. Like, I didn't know the ocean, the beaches, the rivers coming in from the ocean. I mean, it was a magical place, the East Coast, especially around there with Yale being there, and then you go up to Rhode Island. Anyway, nothing but warm feelings for my time out in Danbury, East Haven, New Haven area. It was just it was a life-changing experience for me, really.
Screaming fans and knocked out teeth sums up everyone's memories of New Haven, it seems.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And my uncle went to Yale, so my memory of New Haven is Sally's Pizza. That's my.
Well, we went there. Is it still there?
Yeah. Well, I think I don't know if Sally's is there. Pepe's is still there, but I don't know if Sally's.
No, Pepe's. You're right. Pepe's is the one. Because the best, that was another thing going to New Haven. That was the first time I ever had real Italian East Coast pizza. Oh, that was good. Yeah.
When you eventually get to the New York Islanders, you're there for the most transformative time from the beginning. You're there for a transformative time. And for me, looking at it as someone who wasn't there, it seems like the turning point was that 79 series against the Rangers, the final time that you only reached the semifinal. And from there on out, you're like, we're going on a run. We are doing this. When you reach that level of desperation, what makes that transformation from perennial runner-up to we are going to go on a long run?
Well, that's a great question, Casey. And what people, they can't know what's going on inside the players as well as in the dressing room. You talk about it and you explain it, but there's a feeling. It's just like within a marriage. Someone could tell you, how's your marriage? They could tell me, but if you're not living it, you don't really know it, So two things happen. One, of course, physically, and that's just a no-brainer. When we lost to the Rangers, we lost to Toronto the year before, and this isn't a knock on our second-line center, but we didn't have a second-line center. We had Bryant. And if you go back and look at Stanley Cup winners, generally down the center, in goal, and one defenseman right down the center is where your strength lies. We didn't have that second line center. And then so when we would play a team, they would just load up and check or beat up Boss Mike Bossy or Brian Trache, or, Clark Gillies, or when I say beat him up, I don't mean pound him, but just physically. And so we didn't have that secondary level of attack. So obviously in 79, when Bill Torrey made that trade, we got that with Butch Goring. He should be in the Hall of Fame. But anyway, he was that great. Internally, what I loved about my time with the Islanders and as we grew, I always say one of the greatest truths for me is that, for me personally, God has shown me the truth in life. And just in life in general, if you know the truth will set you free. If people are going to stay in denial and say, no, that's not really happening, and whatever, okay, you can do that. You could pretend that, but it's not going to get you where you want to go. So we have this meeting in the spring of that year after we got Butch. And it was the most honest hockey locker room meeting I've ever been a part of. And what was great is Billy Smith, 4-time Stanley Cup winner, Hall of Famer, way underrated. He was the opposite of me in with the fans. I'm not knocking Smitty, but Smitty just never had a lot of time for the fans, so to speak. He didn't like to do interviews. His thing was play, give it your all, get out of there and go do something else. So in this meeting, Casey, people are talking fluffy stuff. Hey, we got to come together as a team. We've got to, we got to care about each other. We've got to give everything we got. And, we got to be a family. I remember the Pittsburgh Pirates had won the World Series with the song "We a Family." I think it was the Pointer Sisters. Not many people are going to remember them. That's going back. But anyway, so they're doing all that.
Now, I have to stop you there because you were talking to the proud owner of a Kent to Colby jersey. So kind of like,
oh, did you? Oh, good. That's great. So anyway, so they're talking about we got to become a family. And then Smitty gets up. And Smitty didn't talk much. Smitty talked on the ice, as you know. He just got up and said, hey, this sounds all good, but no, that's not what it's about here. Now, we're talking old-time hockey. He said, I remember him saying, I've got my family. I got my wife. I got my 2 kids. I got my brother. He starts listing his family, right? He said, no, that's my family. You guys aren't my family. Like, we're not, and this is the truth. You're not. But you have a goal, and you have a purpose, and you have a destination you want to reach as a group. So you're a group, but you're not really family anyway. He says, so no, here's what we got to do. He said, like it was you, Casey. He said, Casey, you got to get cut for me. You got to take some stitches if that's what it takes to go in the corner. If dropping your gloves. He said, I'll get cut for you. I'll cut some people for you too, as he always did, which is ironic now because Lindy Ruff is the coach of the Devils. And if you look at his one eye, it's a little bit different than the other. He caught Billy Smith's butt end. But anyway.
Oh, there it is. As he skated by, Smith stuck his stick out and Ruff goes after him.
So Smitty is just saying, let's cut out the family thing. Let's just go out there. We got one goal. They take money out of our pocket or we take it out of theirs. We win the cup or they do. And I got to tell you, Casey, when he sat down, there was nothing else to say. Nothing else. He laid out the truth, but it was a turning point, and we did win and won again and again and again. So it was Islanders were special because of that honesty within the locker room, and it was a big result in winning 4 straight cups.
For all the stories of mild-mannered, jovial Chico, some of your goalie partners, man, are a different breed because you had Billy and you had Ron Hextall at the end of your career. You had the biggest psychos in goaltending history by your side.
Careful now. Careful, Casey.
Are they going to come?
Hey, yeah, I'll see you. I'll give you a 2-hander next time I see you. You call us psychos. But no.
But are we ever going to see that brand of goaltending again, or is that era done?
Well, that whole hockey era is done. Listen, I like the way the game's played to a point now, but there's been some games already this year, Casey. You just touch someone's arm, slash, hook. It used to be you had to go to the dirty areas. There are no dirty areas in the NHL. Trust me. You can stand in front of the net and have a cup of coffee. Just stand there in front of the goalie and screen him because no one's going to hit you. No fans, the young fans of this generation, I think, miss that rub, that friction of to be good. You got to fight through the physical, and it takes a lot of this. But now you don't really have to. There isn't like real intense physical play. There's some pushing and shoving, there's some of that. But anyway, well, what Smitty did was, Casey, you might not know this, but the end of the stick, instead of putting his big fat knob on the end that goalies did or players do so it doesn't slide off, he put his down about that far. So you had just wood here, and then you had it. And so when that end would strike someone, as Smitty would say, accidentally in the face, yeah. But they changed the rule. Now, a goalie has to tape the end of his stick. That's the Billy Smith rule. So I was there when that happened. Okay, Smitty was who he was, and it was accepted at that time that don't go near his crease. Which psychologically was good for Smitty and our team because players didn't drive the net. Because I got to just tell you another story. Miles Wood, who I love, his dad's Randy Wood, but Miles Wood plays for the Devils now. And Casey, he goes all out. Playing Boston early this season, twice in the game, he goes and he just goes all out. Like if there weren't boards, he'd be 3 blocks away before you'd say, "Woody, come on back, you overshot the ring." But so he runs into the goalie. I think it was Halak twice, Boston goalie. Maybe it was Chico Resch. Knocked him back into the net. He got a penalty one time. So then, late in the third, he gets a breakaway. Coming in 100 miles an hour again. Chico Resch, he backs up a little because he thinks this guy's going to run over me again. What happens, Casey? Miles Wood, thank you very much. Now I got this much to shoot at because he's moved back. Boom, puts it in the net. And my point was, I was thinking, and I think I said it, back in the day, Casey, and you're in the locker room and you're the goalie for the other team and you're playing really well, players would say, "Hey, somebody's got to run that Casey guy. We got to throw him off his game." So guys would drive off the wing with the puck and just beeline right for that goalie. Bang, knock him, and hope to intimidate him. So that was the kind of game it was. So that was Smitty, and I love playing with Smitty. We're really good friends. And then with Hexie and I had one of the greatest years he and I ever had together. We went to the finals and lost in the 7th game. But I remember the next year after I had left, not that it would have mattered, but I remember I was in the playoffs or Montreal, and Chris Chelios was going along the boards on the right wing. And I don't know why Ronnie didn't like Chris Chelios, but he charged out of his net over to the boards. Now he could have got scored on, but I don't know what the score was. Once the score gets lopsided, you don't care who scores, right? It's just getting even physically.
Box comes Sutter offside against the Canadians, and now Hextall goes bailing out at one of the Canadians, hitting high and hard.
Chris Chelios had given Brian Propp, a teammate, a cheap shot. And in the old days, if another player on the other team gave your teammate a cheap shot, you tried to even it up, right? But not usually the goalie. But Hexie runs at him. And then so he says, "Come on, Chris, let's drop the gloves." And Hexie drops his glove, and Chris doesn't really know what's going on anyway. Here was a turning point in hockey. And Hexie told me this. He said when they wrote the articles afterwards, he said they were criticizing me. They were saying that, "What's he doing? Like, this is barbaric." They unloaded on me so bad, even some of the Philadelphia writers. He said, "Fine then." He said, "If that's the way the game's going, I won't do that anymore." But that was a turning point where I remember, Casey, right or wrong, a lot of people on TV, the 10 o'clock news sports guy or 6 o'clock news, would just start. There was that trend going on in the 80s of just ripping on hockey. It's barbaric. They hit each other with sticks, right? But that started to change the people's minds. And then writers who didn't really understand, they were starting to criticize. And now that's where it's gotten to now where, if anybody loses it, like, I saw where Carter Hart hadn't been playing well in Philly, and he got lit up in Boston like 6-1. He just took a stick and he was smashing it over the net, and he couldn't break it. They're composite now, but he got a little bit of criticizing for that, and he had to go and apologize. And I thought, why apologizing? You snap, so what? I mean, if you're that intense, you're going to get frustrated. The game has changed, and those guys, those two goalies, were so unique that and they were both great goalies. I don't know the correlation. You'd have to figure that out, Casey.
So my older brother works for the NHL. He's a video editor. He does all of the weird NHL videos of all the bloopers and such. And one of the ways that he was able to get noticed by the NHL and kind of earn this job is because one of the videos that he made on his personal YouTube channel went viral. He made a video called 14 Minutes of Pissed Off Goalies. And that video got about 7 million hits. And he was able to get a job at the NHL. He parlayed that editing skill into a real job.
Is that on YouTube?
It is, yeah. If you look he made 14 minutes of pissed off goalies, and when that went viral, he made a follow-up called 5 minutes of happy goalies, of 5 minutes of Daryl Ray and Peter Mrazek, dancing around and being goofy. To counterbalance, and that got about 5 million hits.
So I would just punch in 14 minutes of peed off goalies. Okay.
Yes.
Oh, that's interesting. There's a guy in Canada right now working for Rogers Sports out in Calgary. He thinks that you could do like a 5 to 10 part series on just goalies through the history, because they're so, I don't want to say, what did you call us? What did you call it?
I in the most loving of terms, I said
psycho. That's what it was. Psycho. That is not a loving term, but I'm kidding you.
And people should make no mistake that there are a few angry Chico moments out there too. There's one YouTube video here, since I'm online, that is titled Chico Resch Goes Crazy. And it is a video. I'll share my screen so that you can see what I see here, because I think it's pretty fun. This is a game when you're on the Devils against the Rangers.
Oh, I remember it well.
Yep. Shot hits the crossbar, and it's ruled a goal. And I love this. This is as animated as I've seen anyone. You're hopping around. You're yelling. You're screaming. Do you remember anything about what you said, or is this just a blind rage that you're going into?
Oh, this was the most frustrating moment. We're the Devils, the upstart Devils. We don't win a lot of games. We're ahead of and then Mel Bridgman. Yeah, even see, he's a Ranger goal judge. He was against us, but I think it was Lewis. I couldn't tell which referee. And then I'm trying to talk to Will Norris, like he's the linesman. He's saying, "Well, I don't have any power," but I hope somebody's seen it. Okay, here the story is: we had never beaten the Rangers in the Garden. We were ahead like 3-1. This is in the third period, I think, and Robbie Fedoruk comes down and he backhands it. And because I've had, what do I have? I have like 1,500 goals go by me in my career. I know when the puck goes in or not. I knew it hit the crossbar, off my stick, came right down. There you see it. And I said, great, I got it going. We're going to beat them. Not only am I playing well, I'm lucky right now. But so when he called it a goal, I did flip out. And then you know what I said to him, which he wouldn't listen to. I said, come and look on the crossbar. You will see the water droplets. If people don't realize, when the puck, because it's frozen and it's skimming over the ice, when it hits the crossbar, you could see the water droplets where it hit. And I just wanted to see. I said, well, come, just let me show you the crossbar. And they counted the goal. There was no video replay. And, I was kind of a quiet guy in some ways, but, that's what people don't realize. We are told we got to get to the razor's edge. We got to get to the top of intensity, focus. You got to make this like the most important thing in your life, right? Playing hockey, because especially now when you're making 5 to 10 million, it better be a big focus. So then when you're all into the game and stuff, and you think unfairly you could lose the game or something's working against you, well, you just become emotional. Fans like that. because they see, oh yeah, this means a lot to him. He's really involved.
We'll have to include you in the new edition of 14 more minutes of kickoff goalies.
Yeah. Ronnie Hextall, one of the greatest goalie fights was Ronnie Hextall and Felix Potvin. And Ronnie, who was a good fighter, said to me, I didn't realize Felix Potvin could fight so much. And he said, so when we're fighting, he said, I'm feeling some blood dripping down. And I said, Ronnie's saying, geez, I cut him. Again, trust me, it's two brothers fighting. It's not like, a little blood, whatever. But so the fight's over, and Ronnie thinks he won because he cut Felix Potvin. He goes like this. He said, I never cut him. He cut me. That's my blood running down. And he was saying, I was shocked. The one thing I will say, though, about fighters, in the last years of the big heavyweights, those guys would pump weights. Their arms were like Popeye. When I played, guys were in shape, but now with these big guys, with their punches were probably packing, another 50, 100 pounds of thrust when they hit them. So then it got a little more dangerous.
One of our owners of the Hat Tricks, who's involved and he coaches the women's team that plays out of Danbury, is Colton Orr. And who's one of the last of the enforcers. And I tell you, Colton, when he goes to shake your hand, you notice that his fingers are like this. He can't even extend his hand anymore because he's been fighting so much. He's broken his bones so much that he can't even extend his arms anymore. He looks like I don't know what. It's like a claw.
Well, Casey, good point. And that was the other bad thing, or that's why they're going to eliminate fighting. And when they put the helmet on and in the cage, when they would fight at first, there was honor. They'd take their cage off, right? Because his hands aren't going to look like that if he's not hitting plastic. You're not going to get that from hitting somebody's skull. Mm-hmm. And that's what I felt bad about that transition, where the guys wouldn't take the helmets off because there was a 2-minute penalty, right? Extra. They added if you deliberately took your helmet off to fight. Well, now these guys are hitting, helmets, and so it's good. They wanted to eliminate it, and interesting. The league, rather than just making a rule to eliminate it, knew with all these little rule changes, it eventually would dissipate and be gone. And I think we're almost at that point now.
Before I let you go, Chico, I know you've been asked a million times about this, but I would be remiss if I did not ask about Chico Eats, because when you returned to the Devil's Booth in 2017 after a few years off, everyone wanted to know, is there going to be an audio version of Chico Eats? It's all of the comments. It's all of the tweets. I'll say, Chico Eats is back. So I'll ask you, what is your favorite arena food, either at The Rock or around the league?
It has to be in the Montreal Forum. The French word for hot dogs are chien chaud. Some of the best hot dogs I ever ate were on the East Coast. There was the hot dog stand in East Haven or New Haven, out by the water. Oh, I can't remember what it was. Oh, they had good hot dogs. They had other great food too. But anyway, so what they do is they boil, the wieners, and then they put them inside a bun. And like a grilled cheese, they have this machine that goes down and grills the outside of the bun. And but I would have them double up on the wieners, so there was two. But one night with Madison Square Garden, my friend Larry Gaines, who's the video guy, secretly was taping me, and I ate somewhere between 5 and 10. I won't tell you how many, closer to 10. If I ever pigged out, it was when I got to Montreal. And
what MLB has, which I really love, is that MLB has the Fan Food Fest. It was like a new thing they introduced last year where every team in the league brought something from their arena for a bunch of fans to buy. You would buy tickets and you would be able to sample food from every ballpark in America, which I thought was amazing. And one of the things that the Arizona Diamondbacks brought, again, I'll share my screen so that you can see what I'm talking about because it's ludicrous. It is a churro dog. Because you said you like hot dogs. This is the churro dog. You have donut buns, a churro for the middle, and an ice cream sundae on top here. And that looks ludicrous, does it not?
That's ludicrous. Yeah, that's psycho. I know you can go extreme, but what I liked when we did Chico Eats, and Roland Dratch, who's the long-time producer for MSG Devils, great producer, great guy. He came up with the idea. We were the first to ever do it. Nobody else was doing it, and I see and that was probably 15 years ago at least. It was so much fun because I would go and I would say, okay, I don't know what I'm going to do tonight, but I got to do something kind of off center, which goalies can be off center, right, Casey? Yeah. Anyway, we did like 3 seasons of that, and could you imagine how many calories? That's got to be 2,000 plus.
I don't even want to know. I tell you, when I was in like middle school and we were taking health class and first learning what calories were, we had that lesson right after we got back from a school field trip to Washington, D.C. And when you were on that field trip on the bus, you would stop at rest stops, and I would hit up Cinnabon every single stop. And when I got back and learned, all right, so for example, a Cinnabon has about 2,000 calories. I'm thinking, I'm going to die. This is it. I'm going to enter cardiac arrest.
Oh, boy. Oh, when they first came out, Cinnabons, remember, now you might be too young. I remember when they first, they're good, but you were eating them like 2 or 3 a day?
Yeah, it was a lot. I mean, look, I have 13-year-old metabolism working for me here.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Well, listen, Chico, I've taken up a lot of your time. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. I know things are crazy in hockey right now and with the Devils right now, but we really appreciate you stopping by, and we hope everything keeps safe and healthy for you and your family, and we hope to see you back in the booth at the Rock real soon.
And you guys as well up there in Danbury. What a great franchise that has been for a long time. And I just want to say this, the NHL is great, a great show, great entertainment and stuff. It's expensive, but the minor leagues experience is something unique. And, I just hope people don't get so into the electronic stuff they're doing and it's got to be the show or nothing, that people stay away from minor league hockey. Take your family. It's just fun. You could be, there's no pretense. It's not glitzy. It's the minor leagues for me and so many. I was thinking you talked about announcing Doc Emmerich started in the minor leagues. So many people had a stint in the minor leagues, and they wouldn't trade it for anything. And a lot of it's because of the fans, the experience. And I think the what I love the most about the minor leagues, there's not a big separation between the fans and the players. In reality, a lot of the fans are making more money than the players, right? I mean, you're talking to some successful businessman or some professional. He's making more than you, and neither of you are really know where this is going to lead. But in the NHL, you got the big salaries. I get it. So there's sort of a separation of players and fans. But in the minor leagues, man, they'll stay around and talk, and they just I don't know. I just love my time in the minor leagues, and of course, New Haven was where it all started, and I'm forever grateful.
Well, that's awesome, Chico. Thank you so much for joining us.
It was a pleasure. Thanks, Casey. I wish you the best.
That'll do it for us here on the Hat City Hockey Show. If you like this episode, be sure to click like and subscribe, and follow at Danbury Hat Tricks on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, because that's a thing we have now for all important updates going forward. I'm Casey Bryant. Take care.